All right, let's get right into it. Today, we are diving into one of the absolute most critical concepts in all of strategy. And, according to Sun Tzu himself, it's also one of the hardest, the art of maneuvering. And believe me, this isn't just about moving pieces on a board. It's about moving with a purpose that gives you that decisive edge.
Sun Tzu does not beat around the bush here. He just puts it right out there at the beginning of the chapter. After you've done all the planning, all the gathering of forces, you actually have to move. And he says that right there. In that moment of movement, that's where you find the greatest difficulty of all.
Yeah, this really cuts to the core of it, doesn't it? This isn't just, one more step in your checklist. For one of the greatest military thinkers in history, maneuvering is the ultimate test. It's that moment where all your grand plans and high-minded theories just slam into the messy, unpredictable reality of the world.
So that's the big question, right? What on earth makes it so incredibly tough? I mean, it sounds simple enough. Just get your army from point A to point B. But as we're about to see, it's actually a really profound, even paradoxical art form.
This brings us right to the heart of the problem, what we can call the general's greatest challenge. You see, Sun Tzu doesn't see this as just a logistical task. To him, it's a really complex puzzle that's both psychological and physical.
And here is the central paradox he lays out. The whole goal is to turn the devious into the direct. Just think about that for a second. It means you take the long, winding, totally unexpected path, and by doing that, you actually create the most direct route to winning. It's about turning what looks like a weakness, like a longer route, into your greatest strength.
To put it in modern terms, think of it like this. The objective isn't always to find that obvious, straight line from A to B. No, it's about finding the path of least resistance. It's about finding the one that completely outwits and unbalances your opponent, giving you the upper hand when you finally show up. Okay, so if the problem is turning the devious into the direct, then what's the solution? Well, Sun Tzu has a name for it, the artifice of deviation. And this is the practical, how-to guide for pulling off that strategic masterstroke.
And he breaks this whole thing down into 3 really clear steps. First, you dangle some bait. You lure the enemy, make them think you're going one way, or get them to chase after some false prize. Then, second, while they're totally distracted, you take that unexpected roundabout route. And third, here's the magic. Despite starting later or taking a longer path, you get to the crucial position before they do, totally prepared for battle while they're just confused and exhausted.
You see this in the business world constantly. Think about a tech startup. Instead of trying to take on a giant like Apple or Google head-on, which would be suicide, they might find a tiny, overlooked niche. They build up a loyal customer base there, they perfect their product, and they gain strength, quietly. By the time the big industry leader even notices them, that little startup has already secured a strong foothold. That is a perfect modern example of the art of deviation.
Now, to actually pull this off, you need a specific set of qualities. And Sun Tzu breaks them down into these powerful, almost poetic commands that are basically the keys to a successful maneuver. So the first key is speed. But it's not just about moving fast for the sake of it. It's about moving with a purpose and a surprise that's as hard to pin down as the wind itself.
As Sun Tzu says, let your rapidity be that of the wind. And what's brilliant is that the ancient commentators added another layer here. They noted that the wind isn't just fast, it's also invisible and leaves no tracks. Your movement has to be so quick and so traceless that the enemy has no idea you're even coming until it's way too late.
But of course, speed is totally useless if your opponent sees you coming a mile away. And that's why the second key is secrecy. Your plans, your real intentions, your ultimate goal, all of it has to be completely hidden from their view.
Sun Tzu goes on, "Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night." What this really means is your opponent should have absolutely zero idea what you're actually planning. Because if they can't see your strategy, they can't prepare for it. All they can do is react, and by then, you've already won.
So, you've moved fast and you've moved in secret. Now comes the final part, the moment of action. The strike itself has to be absolutely decisive and shocking. And when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. The attack, when it finally comes, is not a slow, grinding battle. It is a sudden, overwhelming, and conclusive blow. Just like a thunderbolt, it's so fast it can't be dodged. The enemy is broken before they even have a chance to put up a real defense.
Now, for all this exciting talk of speed and surprise, Sun Tzu hits us with a very stark warning. Maneuvering, especially doing it fast, is incredibly dangerous, and if you get it wrong, the consequences are absolutely catastrophic.
Here's the rule you just can't break. Logistics are everything. You cannot outrun your supply lines. An army is like a machine, and without its fuel, we're talking food, supplies, equipment, that machine will just grind to a halt and get destroyed.
And Sun Tzu actually quantifies this cost with some grim precision. I mean, just look at the brutal reality of a forced march. If you try to cover 100 li, that's about 30 miles, just to gain an advantage, you will lose 90% of your army on the way. Your best soldiers will arrive completely exhausted and everyone else will be left behind. At 50 li, you lose half your army. Even at 30 li, a third of your force won't even make it.
The lesson here is just crystal clear. Showing up somewhere quickly with a shattered, exhausted, and undersupplied army isn't a victory. You've simply marched your own forces into a trap that you built yourself. Real maneuvering is a delicate balance of speed, surprise, and readiness.
So let's try to pull all of this together. How do these ancient ideas on maneuvering actually apply to the challenges that you and I face in our own work and in our own lives today?
So, what are the big takeaways? Well, first, always prioritize a smart strategy over just raw speed. Next, remember that deception can be one of your most powerful tools. Third, and this one is so important, you have to know the costs before you make a move. And finally, always be on the lookout for ways to turn what looks like a disadvantage into your own unique path to victory.
When you really boil it down, maneuvering is all about control. It's the art of imposing your will on a situation, forcing your competitor or your adversary to react to your moves on your terms. And that principle, it's just as true for a project launch or a salary negotiation as it was for any ancient battle.
So, I'll just leave you with this final thought. Every significant challenge you face is going to require some kind of movement, some kind of maneuver. The real question is, are you just moving or are you truly maneuvering? Are you prepared to look beyond that obvious direct path and start to master the art of deviation?